Yeah, it's up in the thingy and do voice isolation thingy Bob.
Do not disturb. There you go.
Oh, yes, that's proper. It's really good. And Jason, welcome to another episode of the Jason and Bart Show. I literally forgot what our intro is. It's wow. I'm having
I just noticed that the red light was on. So here I am. Here we are.
Here we are.
Hi,
How are you, sir?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm having a day. Just a day.
You're having
it's
a
like,
day?
You know
it's a
what
Monday.
It is? It's not even, I know, but it's like, it's little things that are just like adding up to like just be far enough annoying. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what that is. It's where I'm at. But here we go. I have coffee. You have topic, I think.
I have water.
And we can talk about it. Water.
I have water. Yeah. Recording on a non-usual day today. So maybe that's part of the different vibe and the Venn diagram of camera angles that we've got going on right now.
That's complaining that I change it up every time.
I love it.
We don't change it up, actually.
I love it.
We keep it the same.
It keeps me on my toes. No, speaking of keeping us on our toes, wanted to spend some time today talking a little bit about the challenges of mentorship and professional development in remote work environments. This is something that I think for some companies certainly who were remote or distributed before the pandemic, who've had a little bit more time to sort of figure these things out, and even those who were remote before the pandemic struggle with this still. Certainly like clients that I talk to.
Yep.
And certainly I would say even at Crowd Favorite, I find it a struggle for us to kind of make sure that we are remaining focused and staying intentional about it, and synthesizing the ease of this that you get through in-person interactivity that you're not getting obviously in this environment now. And then of course you've got a lot of companies out there who are sort of brand new to this work environment, right. Excuse me, as well, right? So and there's a direct correlation to your business success and to this issue, right? Because you want to constantly be making sure that the team is improving over time and aligning with your business goals from a skill set standpoint to where the company is going, right? You want your team to be able to not just play the game that they're on the field today to play, but the game that they're going to be playing next week and next month and next year as well, right? So.
Yeah, I also feel like that younger employees are gonna have a really, really tough time. I just literally today just came back from a lunch and we had this conversation. The person I was with, they work at a big company, and they were saying that they want to stay home. That person wants to stay home because they've been in the business forever, it's a high up kind of thing. It's VP, but still comes to work because the company's requiring it. But also is having issues with the younger employees, coming into work, not wanting to come into work. They're working from home. I think the struggle is going to be the younger employees who started their careers in 2019 and 2020. All they know is the video, right? But there's something to be said to be in person, and not only just, it's not company looking out for you. It's more of like the mentorship, being around the other people that have been around for the block a few times. You know what I mean? Like, just it. Yes, you should. I think mentorship in companies to do strategically having programs to do mentorship, but also like just picking up what's happening in the company and how the company works. Just from sitting next to somebody is, I think, very important.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think you're dead on right about young people. And I think we talked about this previously, but like I remember listening to Mike Montero talk about this. He was like the biggest misconception that startups and small companies make is they hire cheap young resources, right? Because they're cheap and they're young. And the biggest misconception that new new employees in the workforce or recent graduates make is that they all want to go work at startups and small businesses because it's cool and their perks and all the rest of it. But the real mentorship happens actually like inside of corporate America, because they've got so many layers of management and bureaucracy, right? And when you're a small company or you're a startup, like everybody's running around with it like their heads cut off, right? Trying to do 6 different jobs
They don't have
because
time.
it's all growth, growth, growth. Like I don't have time to mentor you right now. Like we're in growth mode. Like when we're like focused on profitability and all that stuff later on down the road, sure, we can start having those conversations about how do I grow you. But right now I'm trying to grow myself because I'm doing 5 jobs and someday I've got to pick which one of these I want if this thing actually works out. Right. So
Right.
I think that's really smart. And then to your point about management, I don't want to make this about just necessarily remote, how many days a week are you in the office? But I one of the things I hear a lot about sort of in-office requests coming back into vogue now from corporate America, especially, is just that the people doing the requesting are the ones that actually don't ever go in the office, right? So your upper management people, right? They're the ones who are kind of, in August, they're out vacation
Yep.
home or wherever they are, right, doing whatever they're doing, but
Yep.
they're asking everybody to come in the office on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I think also having your management teams, and again, this is for smaller digital agencies, right? This show. So for those of us running those businesses, I think making sure that your management layers, you're professionally developing them in management, and that management development that they will incur will push them to make sure that they're really focused on the people and the teams they're managing and make sure they're getting the next layer of development, right?
Right.
And I wonder, I was going to ask you this too, like I was thinking about today, like I was trying to think of like successful professional development, like mentoring stories that we've had, like a crowd favorite or whatever, right? Um, and I will say it's usually been, we definitely have things in our workflow to be intentional about professionally developing the team. But I will say the people who have probably done the most taking advantage of that are self-starters, right? And I think I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, like,
Absolutely.
maybe talk a little bit about the tendencies of self-starters to take initiative, in their own professional development, and how do we facilitate, or how do we identify those people and maybe to utilize them as examples.
It's, I guess as sort of my job, it's kind of hard to tell, right? Because I'm a self starter. I just keep on go 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 go, right? Like that's my job. It's always been
Yeah.
there. Like just the character of that, right? And I think you need a mix of both. You need self starter and sort of the workers and that do their sort of, that's, I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing next type of thing. Um,
At the root of it, don't you
I guess
think
self
it's
starters.
do you think at the root of it, though, it's like systemic from a value culture standpoint, where like, are you hiring sort of inquisitive self-starter people who will organically push themselves? And also, by the way, if the company isn't pushing them, push the company even more to professionally develop them, or so on and so forth.
Yeah, but do you want everybody to be that in the company?
Yes, I do. I mean, I always want people to want to be looking to improve. And I think this is where I think eventually this starts veering into like, are you operating your business optimally as
Yeah.
well, right? Because we talked a little bit about this, I think, last week when I was going off on my rant or whatever about resources and employees. But like, part of like not accepting that Johnny's been doing the same thing for 6 years, but he's gotten 4 raises in the last 6 years and 3 title bumps in the last 6 years, to correlate with the fact that he's doing pretty much the same job that he was doing 6 years ago. That's a killer for growing companies. It kills your
Yeah.
profitability and it kills your ability to actually improve what you're delivering over time, which means you're actually diluting the value that you're delivering to your clients or your customers. And eventually I think that does catch up with you. So I do think, like, if you want to say, hey, a person like me who's like, hey, like, no, I I do accept and I do expect that people have sort of an internal organic thirst for more, then my job and the company's job is to be able to provide them an environment in which they have access to an opportunity,
Right.
to maximize that. But you're right, not everybody is, and this is where I was going. Like, not everybody is that person, right? So, like, how do you make it important without? It's like saying to somebody who's an introvert, like, hey, like going and doing public speaking is really good for you. Yeah, it is good for you, but they're an introvert. So it's always going to be really uncomfortable for them to do it the same way as somebody else, right? So how do you make it sort of like,
I'm going to stop you there.
yeah,
Not always. I can tell you not always. I'm definitely extroverted and I hate public speaking. My business
right,
partner is very introverted and he loves public speaking. It's a
that's fair.
you have to watch how that kind of is. It's the idea of connecting with people, right? So it's the same thing with, um, I think the person mentoring that is also that, right? There's some
Right.
people that just want to do their work, they want to leave, and they have the starters where they're like they are interested in growing their careers a certain way.
And that's perfectly fine. I guess then those people, to those employees and not resources, then, like, over time, then you also hit a ceiling on where you can professionally develop in terms of your value.
Right. No, that's true. That's
Right.
absolutely true.
I guess I'm going under the premise that whether or not they should or not, most people kind of expect every year or so that they should be getting more and more and more, right? And I
Yeah.
think from the owner operator standpoint,
That's not always true, right?
the response is, I want to continue to give you more and more and more. My expectation is also that you're learning more and that you're creating more value and you're doing all those things, and
correct. Yeah.
I pay extra for that. And I think where the
Yeah, and I think I think that's what you should be doing, right? It should be
100%.
career driven, and yeah,
And I think what I'm going to try to do is like create the opportunity and remove the, I don't want to say like remove the excuse, but you ever get to that point where somebody's like, hey, how about a raise? And you're like, kind of just doing the same thing. So I think we're just going to keep you at the salary band
yep,
that you're at right now. But if you
yep,
want to move up, like, here's what the next thing looks like. That's how you get there. And if they're like, hey, I'm cool just doing what I'm doing, then, you got to
right,
be also cool then being compensated for doing what you're doing. Right. I
right,
think that's
absolutely,
the other part.
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. And I also just wonder, like, how do you, and again, I do think it's partly cultural in the sense of like, not in terms of like, how do you shape behavior, but how do you provide an environment where, like, employees who they feel empowered to say, hey, there is a class that I want to take, or there is a course that's interesting to me, or there is a conference that I want to go to, or there's somewhere where I do want to speak, or all those different things. Like, how are you sort of sharing like best practices around empowering those employees to take ownership and do those things? Because part of it is management. The people who are managing them need to look for
yeah.
opportunities to professionally develop. And I think part of it is to, like, creating an environment where that sort of, I don't want to say
I've
rewarded,
always,
but
yeah, I feel like, at least in my opinion, it's the job of the company to just help progress careers. So for me, it's looking out for different things that the employees can go to, um, or is there learning stuff like that. And I've over the years we've said this, like, if there's some opportunity you guys want to look at, please bring it to our attention. But I've also done it the other way where I'm like, this person looks like they want to go into this field. Hey, would you like to take this class, or do you want to go to this like event type things? I've done that with the bureau, right? We had project managers be like, hey, you should go to this, and then that changes how they interact with the company. Like, that's an investment in in the company itself, right?
Mhm.
In my opinion,
Yeah, and I do
like
think,
that.
you hit the nail on the head earlier too. I think you have to. I think it's important to highlight the importance of personalized development plans. That,
Yep.
not every developer is created equal. Not every designer, not every PM, not every people ask me a lot, like what's your management style? And I'll just say to them, how many people am I managing? Because that's how many styles you have to have. There are no, what did, was it Casey Stengel who once had that great line about managing? He's like, my job is to keep the guys who hate me away from the guys who are undecided. And it's like, sometimes it kind of feels like that, but like, I do think like regular check-ins, virtual one-on-ones in a remote environment, and being intentional about your reviews, like not just like around KPIs and performance. Yes, that's really important. Again, it's me talking. So yes, super important. But also like one of the questions that we ask that I make sure is on our 360 review is, when in the last period of time were you the most motivated? When were you the most inspired at work? Because to me, if you're a manager, the more I know when you're motivated and when you're inspired, then if I want to get the most out of you, then my job is to put you in as many of those situations as I possibly can. If I know that's when you're motivated and inspired, but I also know there's a delta between your skill set and me putting you in more of those situations, then to me, as your manager, like that's your professional development path, right?
Yeah, that's true. And as a manager, you kind of have to do the same thing, right? You have to go learn and more, about things, right?
And that's where I think the owner or leadership is really important in setting the tone with the management team who sets it with everybody else, right? We're always talking about getting out of being in the business and working on the business, right? That's the whole mantra, right? Is
Yep.
have managers to manage. And so I think it's important that you are developing your management teams all the time too. Are they getting better at managing people, not just delivering better projects, delivering better KPIs, delivering whatever it is that's sort of top of mind for them too? I think 100%.
Yeah, because they have to learn those things too, right? You're as a manager, you're like part therapist plus disciplinarian part, lovable,
Exactly.
all those things, right? All at the same time.
How do you typically like sort of how do you get feedback from your team in terms of figuring out around professional development, or is it just something that you guys sort of identify and go, I think this would be good for the team, they should do this?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, we're unstructured in that way. I would love to be a lot more structured on it. We're a really, really tiny team, so I hear from everybody all the time. So
Sure.
it's a little different. When you have so two things. The team here is very small, so I kind of know what's going on. The team of developers, they actually do a lot of work. That whole company actually does a lot of, and they do a lot of training.
Mm-hmm.
So what's cool is when they get first hired, they don't get put onto a project whatsoever. They actually get trained first. So whoever comes into the
That makes
company,
sense.
they actually get trained by a senior developer, and they work with them and stuff like that before they get put on the project. So it kind of is nice in that structure.
Yeah.
When it comes to us, it's been. I've tried a lot more structured before. Obviously, every year is different, every month is different. So, but we have sent people to other things, be like, "Oh, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You guys should look into it." So it's a little more ad hoc for us at the moment. I would love.
Sometimes we try to look for things that are like complementary or sort of the opposite. So like sending developers to design conferences and sending designers to developer conferences, et cetera, or sending PMs to AM stuff or AMs to PM stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Like as much as it's about upgrading the skills that they currently have to do what they're doing now even better. I think part of the way to grow is that eventually they're going to grow into different roles, and sort of showing them the context of, the doppelgangers that they work with on the other side of it makes them actually stronger in what they're doing as well. I mean, look, again, I think, the beauty of the remote work environment for a lot of the team is flexibility, right? And so when you are running an organization where you're providing more and more flexibility around people's schedules, then leadership has more of a responsibility to be super intentional around the time that people are spending working, right? And that includes getting better at what they do. It means getting better at the work that they currently do. So like making sure you're investing in these things. I think finding ways to incentivize the behavior of learning, whatever that is to people, Could be classes, it could be
Yeah.
a lot of different things. I think is
Yeah.
just really super important. And then I think training your management team to kind of look for and identify signs in the way that they interact with the people they're managing through their reviews or their one-on-ones or whatever, to look for those opportunities and make sure that they understand from leadership, this is something we are serious about investing in, right? So that they know,
Yeah.
like, oh, well, when I see Jane has this, she's got a ton of potential, and I bet if we just put her on this course, she's going to be amazing. Like, the manager shouldn't have to worry about, like, oh, can we afford, a $1,800 class? No, like, they should know going into it. They should have that conversation. Leadership should be saying, hey, we've got budget set aside for these things. And that's part of our responsibility for our management teams, I feel like, too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, that was it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because I just think it's really important, and I'm starting to feel like, I hate to say this, but maybe it's my age, but like, I feel like people who were hired in their early to mid 20s who are now around 30, maybe even in their early 30s. I don't know if a lot of them are progressing like as fast and as far as maybe the previous group that was in the same boat as them. And
Funny
I don't
you
mean
say
like
that.
30 years ago. I mean just like pre-pandemic. Yeah.
We started the conversation with the lunch meeting, and it's funny we're going to end the conversation in the lunch meeting because it's that person exactly said the same thing.
Really?
Yep. They were saying basically, it's funny because it happens every generation and just changes the work environment. But it was like, I don't think the current sort of, they call them kids, but they're just starting to careers and stuff like that. So it's a little hard to say, but like, they don't know what to do with themselves. And it's changing, how we went through this whole process.
I think there's like a lot of, I think the science of doing a job or building a career is getting better and more powerful and like easier to use. And that's all like remote work and Zoom and Chat GPT and like blah, blah, all this stuff around you. But the art, and this is what you were talking about, the art of doing well in a career has a lot more to do with who you know than what you know. It's a lot more to do with human interaction than it does with ones and zeros interacting with each other. And there's like a nuance and an art, like there are soft skills that are hard to learn in a remote environment, right? I think that's the thing. And how do you synthesize as much as possible those things?
Yeah, people who are, you basically, in my opinion, it's the nature and nurture, and it's both. Now, people who are naturally like that have a better luck with it, right? Because they can actually make that happen. People who are not naturally that, it's harder to do in the remote world. At least that's what I think.
Yeah.
So,
well, good. Well, at least we landed
fun.
right in our Venn diagram, right in our sweet spot there. So it's perfect.
Yeah. See, I'm obsessed with. See, I'm gonna say this. What are you obsessed with this week?
Oh, what am I obsessed with this week? Well, right now I'm obsessed with Apple's Vision Pro. Just came out today.
Not. I was busy eating.
So I haven't seen it, but I'm seeing pop-ups everywhere, so it must be interesting.
It looks like snow goggles.
Yeah. I think from what I understand, it'll be just like everything else, where like the first version is not great and then it gets really good later on. So so a little bit obsessed with that. Yeah, and I guess just all things AI. I'm actually going to a college alumni event this coming weekend to play some golf with some old friends of mine. We are old, so they are old friends. But how about yourself? What are you obsessed over?
Actually, this what we're recording on, I'm trying something new. And then we tried something last week. It did not work the way I wanted to remotely. But I'm hoping the software that I found will work in person, which is the most important thing.
Nice.
Because the remote stuff, that's easy to do. So I'm happy with that. So, and with that, nope, we are done. Anyway, see you guys.